dives are long, expensive, and risky, we pay a high price for the few minutes spent at the bottom.
The ceiling above the diver was alive. Laurent Ballesta had been hanging motionless under Antarctic ice for 5 hours, in water cold enough to stop a human heart, and the frozen surface above his head was moving.
But it had disappeared, but it hasn't, but it remains inaccessible, and you could lose your life trying to find it. It has everything. It has everything in it.
No sunlight reaches this place. Nothing should grow here. So what was his camera actually recording? A descent no one had ever attempted. No team of technical divers had ever gone deep beneath the Antarctic sea ice, with the equipment needed to explore it properly. In fact, seasoned polar scientists considered the mission barely survivable for a human body. But in 2015, a marine biologist and underwater photographer named Laurent Ballesta set out to do the impossible. He wasn't heading for the seafloor. He was heading for the underside of the ice itself, the frozen ceiling of an entire hidden world. Nobody had documentary proof of what actually lived in that darkness, and the sheer hostility of the environment meant he would only get one real shot to find out. The cold that rewrites the rules. Water beneath Antarctic ice shelves sits at roughly minus 1.8 degrees Celsius, close to 29 degrees Fahrenheit. It stays liquid at all only because salt water resists freezing at temperatures that would turn fresh water solid instantly. To manage decompression safely after diving that deep and that long, Ballesta's team faced safety stops, lasting up to 5 hours, hovering motionless under an ice ceiling with nothing but a thin suit separating them from water that could kill an unprotected diver in minutes. Most people picture that kind of cold as empty, a frozen wasteland with nothing left to see. That assumption is exactly what made what happened next so unsettling for the people watching the footage back on the surface. A ceiling covered in something alive. During those long, patient stops beneath the ice, Ballesta noticed the underside of the shelf wasn't smooth. It was textured, almost fuzzy. When he got close enough to photograph it, he became the first diver to capture detailed images of tiny sea anemones burrowed directly into the ice itself. Tentacles hung down into the frigid water, like something growing upside down out of a frozen sky. It turned out a robot had hinted at this years earlier. In 2010, a small vehicle called Sieni was lowered through a borehole in the Ross ice shelf as part of an Antarctic drilling program, studying the seafloor and ocean conditions below. Its cameras picked up something odd clinging to the ice, and scientists eventually realized it was covered in thousands of these creatures, later named Edward Ciela Andrille. But a robot glimpsing something from a distance is very different from a human diver hovering inches away, and Ballesta's photographs turned a strange rumor into an undeniable, documented fact. Life that shouldn't be possible in total darkness. Life persisting in a place that seems designed to prevent it. What made those anemones so strange wasn't just that they existed, it was where they were surviving. Beneath a floating ice shelf, sunlight never reaches the water. Most deep-sea ecosystems on Earth depend on marine snow, nutrients slowly drifting down from the sunlit surface, waters above. But under Antarctic ice, that entire supply chain is completely cut off. Yet Ballesta's dives and later robotic missions kept finding the exact opposite of emptiness. Sponges, corals, and clusters of completely unfamiliar invertebrates were thriving in absolute darkness, feeding off currents and deep nutrient sources that scientists are still struggling to fully explain. This impossible survival pattern is the thread connecting every single thing discovered under Antarctica's ice, and it only got stranger once machines started reaching depths where no human body could survive. When robots went where the divers couldn't, human divers can only go so deep and stay down for so long before the cold and pressure make the risk unbearable. To push further into the absolute abyss, scientists turned to autonomous vehicles. In 2022, an advanced robotic submarine named RAN was sent deep beneath the Dotson ice shelf in West Antarctica. For 27 days, RAN traveled over 1,000 kilometers, pushing 17 kilometers directly into the pitch-black cavity where the glacier floats above open water. Using scanning sonar, RAN mapped the underside of the glacier in a resolution nobody had ever achieved before. The images that flashed onto scientists' screens showed strange, elongated, teardrop-shaped patterns carved into the ice, formations that defied every prediction made by satellite data or ice cores. Lead researcher Anna Wolin compared it to seeing the far side of the moon, a place technically known to exist, but never actually witnessed up close. RAN's data also proved something critical. Massive vertical cracks running through the glacier were melting exponentially faster than the smooth sections around them, a detail that changes everything about how we predict ice shelves breaking apart. Then, in a strange twist nobody saw coming, the ice took RAN back. During a follow-up mission in 2024, the vehicle dove under the exact same shelf to extend its maps, and never surfaced. Its team lost contact, searched for days, and found absolutely no signal and no debris. The machine built to reveal what was hiding under Antarctica's ice ended up becoming part of what's hiding under it. To this day, nobody knows what happened in those final moments. A fatal collision with a jagged hidden ridge, a catastrophic mechanical failure, or something else entirely moving through the dark water. The iceberg that left the seafloor. Naked in January 2025, an iceberg the size of a small city broke away from Antarctica, and what it left behind had never been seen by a single human being or piece of equipment. The iceberg, known as A84, was roughly 510 square kilometers, and it calved away from the George VI ice shelf in the Bellingshausen Sea. A research vessel happened to be close enough to respond. The RV Falkor, 2, operated by the Schmidt Ocean Institute, dropped its entire expedition plan on the spot and sent a remotely operated vehicle down to examine ground that had been sealed under ice for centuries. What they found at depths around 1,300 meters wasn't a barren scar. It was a fully established ecosystem, thick with large sponges and corals, supporting an entire web of marine animals, including what researchers suspect are several species new to science, among them a previously unknown type of isopod. Because sponges in these frigid waters can grow less than 2 centimeters a year, the size of the specimens found suggested these hidden communities had been quietly developing in total isolation for decades, possibly for hundreds of years, completely unaware that anything above them had ever changed. A number that puts everything into perspective. Every anemone Ballesta photographed, every teardrop pattern RAN mapped before it vanished, every hidden community exposed by a calving iceberg, all of it represents a sliver so small it barely registers against what is still out there. Because according to seafloor ecologist Craig Smith, who has spent decades studying these polar waters, roughly 99.99% of the ocean beneath Antarctica's floating ice shelves remains completely unexplored. To put it another way, everything we have discovered so far is practically nothing. Professor Smith doesn't frame the existence of more undiscovered species down there as a possibility. He calls it an absolute certainty. That single data point reframes this entire story, turning a handful of rare, isolated anomalies into early accidental glimpses of a massive hidden biosphere that humans have barely begun to catalog. Why? This matters. far beyond Antarctica. The strangest part of this story isn't confined to Earth. Scientists studying these ice-covered, sunless ecosystems have started pointing to them as working models for what might exist on icy moons elsewhere in our solar system. Places like Europa and Enceladus, both believed to hide liquid oceans beneath frozen shells of their own. If life can establish itself, adapt, and quietly persist for centuries under Antarctic ice without sunlight or an obvious food source, the same conditions elsewhere in the solar system stop looking so impossible. What began as one diver's 5-hour decompression stop under a sheet of ice in 2015 has quietly become part of the evidence scientists use when they argue that life doesn't need the conditions we once assumed it required. What still hasn't been answered. Every expedition since Ballesta's first dive has answered a single question, only to raise 3 more. Scientists are still trying to understand why these anemones choose to burrow upside down into moving ice instead of anchoring to the stable seafloor below them, and what is actually feeding massive sponge colonies that have never seen a single ray of sunlight. Crucially, no one can explain what really happened to Ran somewhere in the dark, under a shelf it had already mapped, or what will happen to all of this hidden life as warming currents continue eroding the very ice shelves these creatures call home. Researchers now openly admit that what has been photographed, mapped, and sampled so far is closer to a preview than a final discovery, a narrow keyhole view into a massive alien biosphere sitting just out of reach beneath the frost. Because somewhere further down, past where any diver or robot has ever dared to travel, something else is waiting. While the vanishing of Ran and the living ice ceilings are bizarre, they pale in comparison to a discovery made deep beneath the dark core of the ice sheet itself, a subglacial network of lakes that shouldn't exist, hiding a strain of ancient prehistoric bacteria completely disconnected from Earth's evolutionary timeline. We are walking through exactly what scientists found in those isolated waters in this next video right here. If this journey rewired how you think about what's lurking at the bottom of our world, hit that subscribe button. It tells the algorithm that deep-sea science and exploration are worth sharing, and it ensures you don't miss our next dive into the unknown.